Hello, Airline Slides people. My name is Henry Tenby. I am the founder of the airlineslides.com website, and I've got a very exciting website improvement I'd like to share with everybody. In this video, I'm going to give you a complete walkthrough in detail of our new invoicing system. Both buyers and sellers should carefully watch this video. It explains how you as a seller can now invoice your buyers and how you as a buyer can purchase and pay for your invoices. What we've done is we've made a major change to how it operates. In the past, the seller would send an invoice. The invoice was sent by email. If the buyer never received that invoice, problems would ensue. So what we've now done is we've now added a completely web-based invoicing and payment method to the auction process. Buyers can now simply go to their My Account, view their unpaid invoices, and pay them. The system is no longer dependent on email delivery. This was an important change that we feel had to be made because more and more ISPs were blocking our website emails. So please make yourself comfortable while I explain in detail how this operates. Okay, gentlemen, first of all, we're going to start with the explanation how the invoicing works as a seller. So you would click on the My Accounts page. At My Accounts, you click on this link here, Invoice Your Buyers, and we'll notice this is now different. So this is the new Invoice Your Buyer page. It loads with the buyer's ID as a red link. That means these buyers have not been invoiced yet. And if you scroll down the page, you'll see some of them are no longer clickable. That means these people have been invoiced. This has been invoiced. This has been invoiced. So the red ones have not been invoiced. So to send an initial invoice to a buyer, you would click on the buyer's name. It loads. This is working exactly the way it did in the past. There's 2 items here, and then you can simply send the invoice. So there's the confirmation right here in red that the invoice has been sent. When the seller sends the invoice, our system will still send the emailed invoice as shown here. That is not going to change. However, the transaction completion is no longer 100% reliant on the receipt of this email, as it has been in the past. So if we now go back to the My Account page and go to the invoice page, you can see this is no longer red because I've sent the invoice. So here's another one. I'll just walk through this again. This particular seller has 3 items and the information here is correct. So I can go down here and send the invoice. The invoice is sent. And if we go back to the Invoice Your Buyers, you can now see that Erica 320, that's been grayed out. We can't click on those. So this is how you do the invoicing. But the page now changes in that if you scroll down, you want to maybe send another invoice. Well, I have to explain something. Once you send an invoice, it cannot be modified. That invoice is now locked in. You can send a new invoice to a buyer, but you can't modify an existing invoice. So let me show you how all that works. All the post-invoice management is done here. So you have to click on this button. It says Post-Invoice Management. So Post-Invoice Management and click the Refresh button. Now this loads a new version of the page. So this initially looks quite different. And as you can see, these are not invoiced because I haven't sent them yet. Now, for example, here we can see the checkout ID. The checkout ID is a unique ID number that is attached to an invoice. This item here and this item here were sent on the same invoice, so they have the same checkout ID number. Let's say I wanted to resend the invoice to Erica 320. All you do now is you simply click here and then you scroll down and there is a resend invoice button here. You can of course have a copy sent to yourself or not, and this is how you resend the invoice. But this invoice is now locked in with these 3 items. You cannot add other items to it. This is a standard operating procedure for invoicing throughout the planet. If a seller wants new items added to the invoice, it can't be done. You'd have to create a new invoice for the other items. And if you want to send them in the same envelope, you could just reduce the postage fee to 0 if you so choose and send them in the same envelope. But you cannot modify an invoice once it is created. So this shows you how this page works. Now, if we scroll down, these are some older listings. And as you can see, it says paid, paid, paid. So these have been paid. And if you're curious, you'll notice that you can click on this and it shows you what was paid for. Now, you can't resend it because it's already been paid. But if you ever want to revisit a paid invoice, it's right here for you, and you can find what the seller what the buyer paid you for. So that is how that works. Now, you may want to get rid of certain images or listings from this page if it's getting too much. You can hide by clicking on these various buttons. Now, if you click one, let's just have a look here. If you click, this is a single item invoice. If it's a multiple item invoice, it will hide all of those items associated with that same invoice. So let's have a look at if any of these are multiple. I don't think they are. Let's have a look. No, these were all single item purchases, unfortunately. So I can't really demonstrate it. But if you want to hide them, you simply click the invoices you want to hide. Like that, and you can click this button here to hide the checked invoices, and that is no problem. And then if you want, once you've hidden those invoices, if you want to view them, you can just click this button here to show hidden invoices and click the refresh button. So that is how that works. So on this post invoice management screen, just to point out, you can see that this slide has not yet been invoiced, and none of these slides have been invoiced. So the ones that are not invoiced are very clear to see. The slides that have been invoiced have a checkout ID associated with them. If you click on the checkout ID, you can resend the invoice if necessary, and those that have been paid indicate they've been paid, and it gives you the date that they've been paid, and you can click on the paid link to view the paid invoice, all the items that were paid within that invoice, and you can also hide slides that you don't want to see. Now, from this page, you may want to go back to the archive, the original, or the first page that we showed with all of your sales. So all you need to do is you need to deselect post-invoice management and hit the refresh button, and this takes us back to I call this the archive page. The reason why I call it the archive page is because it presents all of your sales in date decreasing order. So this is the most current, January the 11th, and it goes back to December the 8th in this case. Now remember, our database does not go back further than 90 days. Auction items are removed from the database when they become older than 90 days. So looking at this page, you'll see that there is no ability to delete items or hide items from this page because this is the permanent archive page. So if you want to do management of your auctions, you simply have to go to the post-invoice management screen, click refresh, and again you can hide them from this page, but you will not be able to hide them from this page because this page will only automatically go back for the past 90 days. Everything will be here going back 90 days. So I hope that makes things clear from a seller's perspective. Now I'm going to show you the invoice page from another account because it's slightly different. So it'll allow us to understand how it works. So in this account, if you click on invoice your buyers, when the page loads, you'll notice none of the buyer's IDs here are clickable. So although you may not have been paid for any of these, the reason why they are not clickable links is because you've already sent the invoice. You've already sent the initial invoice. So this page shows you that you've invoiced all of these people. They've all received their initial invoice. Scrolling down, almost everybody here has received their invoice. So now the question is, how do you
determine who's actually paid you. No problem. Again, you go to your post-invoice management screen by clicking here and then hitting the refresh button and let that load. Now we can again see this has been paid. Look at all these. This has been paid, paid, paid. You can now see the people that have not paid you because it does not say paid. So this is very, very simple. It's very intuitive. It allows us to more fine-tune the management of our invoices from our buyers. And as I explained earlier, if you want to resend the invoice, you simply click on the checkout ID and you can resend the invoice right there. It is as simple as that. I hope this has been clear.